It was fascinating to have these outside voices, which I think is really critical to this whole deficit and debt conversation, and basically just the federal budget as a whole, and having Mr. Dalio there to answer questions and just really share his thoughts were really insightful. I mean, one of the things that I walked away with is that he's like, you got to take care of this before a recession hits. And, you know, timeline could be 2, 3, 4 years. Don't know exactly when, but as I walked out with some of my staff who are younger, they said, oh, how are we going to sleep tonight after hearing that? Because his comments are really, he's a realist, and I appreciate that. And I think that's what a lot of us on Capitol Hill in Congress should be doing right now. And, you know, being realistic about where we're at, $36 trillion of debt, deficits out of control, and getting back to balanced budgets is critical. And he really just laid out a very thoughtful, realistic plan, not with a lot of details, but hit those high points that we should all be considering. And one of those is spending cuts. And so I think that's why the House budget is addressing that, and knowing that having these outside voices, which I think is critical to moving Congress forward and actually doing something, is very timely. And I was glad he was here today.
Really interesting, Congressman. Thanks for bringing us in the room here. And I'm curious about what you said about getting ahead of the next recession. Is that because it would be impossible to pass this bill in the throes of a recession, or a bill like this will prevent one?
He said that it would help prevent it. And, you know, his plan, 3-point plan, basically was 4% spending cuts, 4% increase in revenue, and then having to lower the debt service, 1% roughly. And I think I asked him the question because when Treasury Secretary came down and visited with a group of us, he talked about how he's going to go out to those debt holders and say, hey, America's still a good place to invest. But as Mr. Dalio said, you know, I asked him, can we restructure the debt? You know, in business, at some point, you have the ability to go and restructure and hopefully get better terms. And his comments were not very optimistic. He said things are getting bad enough that those who have the debt would be very skeptical to restructure debt. And so I think that's why all of us, Republicans and Democrats, need to realize that this debt is becoming a crisis here in the next, 3 to 5 years and maybe sooner. So we have to address it today.
Well, and something that does need to be addressed in at least the next few months, and we'll get a specific ex-state estimate from the Congressional Budget Office tomorrow, Congressman, is the debt ceiling, which it could impact the way in which the U.S. is seen as creditworthy, if there is still full faith in the United States credit or not. Obviously, in the House bill, the debt ceiling increase is included. Do you believe the Senate ultimately will come around to that and include it in its own package, or is this going to have to be dealt with separately?
Well, I was interested in what Megan was reporting before I came on, and I think, from what we feel here in the House, is that keeping this one big, beautiful bill, as President Trump likes to call it, is really the way forward. We address the debt ceiling, we address spending cuts, we address the tax policy, and as the committees of jurisdiction start working through all of that, I think that's going to be the path forward. We're going to have to jump on this, jump together as Republicans, because I don't think we're going to get very much help from Democrats. But, kind of back to Mr. Dalio's comments, is that we do have to have spending cuts. We do have to see increase in revenue, but there's ways of doing that. I think tariffs is a short-term solution to increase in revenues. A growing economy will obviously help with that. Then also if we can somehow see lower interest rates to move forward on a budget package that I think addresses all of those. And so I hope the Senate will seriously consider the House package, because I think anything else short of that in the House is going to, if the Senate passes something else, I think it's going to be very difficult to pass in the House.
Congressman, when you were a state lawmaker in Indiana, you helped Governor Mitch Daniels eliminate $1 billion deficit. There was no DOGE and there were no tariffs to provide revenue, but you did it without raising taxes. Can't you bring a lesson from that experience to this debate? How did you do it?
Yeah, well, first of all, Mitch Daniels, not Mitch Doge. Mitch Daniels was Doge before it was cool. He was known as the Blade, if you remember, when he was OMB director, and Governor Daniels really turned Indiana around in a way that has set us on a very strong path going forward fiscally. Balanced budgets. We haven't seen deficits in Indiana for years. We actually are seeing a growing population, a great place to do business, and so I tell that story over and over. And we had a tight majority in 2005 when Governor Daniels came into office, and we passed a budget that would give him 2 years to balance, but he, of course, did it in 1 year. But that's the type of leadership Governor Daniels was, and I think that's the type of leadership we have with President Trump. He's talking about balanced budgets. Doge is giving Congress this insight that we have needed for many years to get actually closer to the action, to see where spending is going and where we can do better in appropriating and authorizing. So I think that that experience is going to be very helpful. And I see this freshman class as the type of class that's here to make those hard votes, to cast those hard votes, but also making sure that we put America on the right course for success and prosperity.
Well, and as you previously mentioned, Congressman, the president obviously thinks one way to do that is to enact tariffs on our trading partners, obviously looking ahead to next week, which he says will bring Liberation Day, April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs. But now he's talking about carve-outs or exemptions for some countries. He says auto tariffs may be coming in the coming days. Do you feel you can give businesses and consumers in your district in Indiana clarity as to what Liberation Day will actually bring and what will come after it?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of, mixed reactions, talking with the steel industry, the tariffs are good for the steel industry. Talking with the ag community, it's a mixed bag there. But I think at the end of the day, what I hear from my constituents in the ag sector and manufacturing sector is that there's trust in Trump that he's going to settle this in the long run. And they know that it's going to take a little bit of time. They also know that deregulation is coming, and that's going to be helpful to the economy, energy production and the cost of energy, and then also just simply confidence. If we get these tax rates, if we make them permanent or even if we extend them for 4 or 5 years, which I think would be sufficient to just give certainty, will make a huge difference. And then whatever volatility is seen from the tariffs, we can ride through that. But, there's going to be days that there's question marks, but I think in the long run, there's a lot of trust for President Trump, knowing he's a businessman, knowing he's been through things like this before, and also the fact that reciprocal tariffs just simply mean if you're going to tariff us $1, we're going to tariff you $1. And at some point, I hope the conversation leads to, hey, what if we just lower all tariffs down and really have fair trade and free trade?